Well, many thanks for joining us on yet another episode of News in Focus. I'm Linda Alela Mathambu. Now, ahead of International Day of Zero Tolerance to FGM, that is female genital mutilation, we have termed it necessary to talk about matters FGM. And today on board, we have a great guest. We have Nasien Kelele, who's on my farthest end. She's a Mandela Washington Fellow from Kajiado, who is also a survivor of FGM. And of course, luckily, she has a great story for us. And indeed, we are looking forward to hearing from her. And next, right next to me is Mercy Chege. She is the Child Protection Manager, Plan International Kenya. Of course, they've been on board, working with the girls, working with the communities to get to know, the challenges that are on board in fighting FGM and everything. And we must say that we have taken great strides as a country, but still we have a long way to go. So welcome on board, and of course, feel free. We're here, we need to learn, and of course, make sure that we make FGM a game of the past. Welcome. Thank you so much for finding time to be here with us.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And we're looking forward to hearing from you people, and of course, see how far we are as a country in the fight against FGM. Unfortunately, we were expecting to have the chair anti-FGM board, Lina Shebi, but she could not make it for some reasons here and there. But nonetheless, we are going to keep this rolling.
Sure.
So I'll start by you. Of course, we need to know, in as much as we assume that people know about FGM and all that, it is very, very important for you to give us a brief description of what FGM really is.
Okay. Thank you. FGM, in very simple words, is a power game.
Yes.
It is a game of inequality between men and women. And, in Africa, we are a very patriarchal society. And you realize that traditionally women have a place, and it is not in the table room or at the forefront.
Yes.
It is back in the kitchen and with the children and all those things that we are told about women. And FGM has been with us for as long as I think our cultures have been there.
Yes.
And it is not just it's not just in Kenya, it is in very many African countries. And in Kenya, we have specific communities where this is rampant, but that is not to say that a few other communities don't practice that. And FGM is really, when there is a myth that when men went to war, they wanted to make sure that women remain faithful until they came back. So they had to do something to make sure that these women, by the time they heal, I'll be back.
All right.
So I can tame her and keep her at home. And that's why, from that perspective, we see that it's really a power game. It's really a practice that puts women in a certain position that is comfortable for the society.
All right.
And that is why, that physical scar that the woman goes through, it takes time to heal. And within that time, she gets to learn exactly what her place in the society is. And it is communicated right from when they are young, the girls are young, and by the time they become women, they believe that that is actually where I should be in the society. So you're kind of groomed from when you're young. You've seen it with your mother, you've seen it with her mother, the grandmother, and you don't have any opportunity to question.
Yes.
Until now, somebody has to come up and say, I think this is not right. Yeah.
All right.
So basically, that is the whole philosophy behind FGM. Yeah.
That's great. Of course, Nasien, your name is just, I'd say, pretty, at the same time, very, very, very a tough one to pronounce, I must admit. But nonetheless, of course, the Maasai, you addressed, you're representing your culture fully, clearly, and all that. Probably you can mention something about FGM in your community and all that.
I think just to add on what she has said is FGM is also a rite of passage that marks a place that you transit from being a child to an adult. So, and I think that's one of the things that as you're growing up and as a child you're socialized to expect that at some particular time in your life that you'll transit and you go through this rite of passage.
Yes.
And people, after that, people will accept you as a woman, that you can participate in the adult exercises in the community, whether being invited to the table of discussion and decision making by other women, definitely. But also it's a space that you can say, now I can have a voice as a child within this side, that someone can stop and listen and not think that's a child talking. So it served others, but also a time that people celebrate because it's celebration during that, right? And just bringing people together to celebrate together the culture. So it has two sides to it also, that it's a rite of passage, it's a celebration. And I think for women, they kind of hold it as a moment that you, at some point in time, you get some acknowledgement. Some people are celebrating you. So yeah, from Maasai, I think that's mainly something, and it's basically a women affair.
At what age would someone go through the knife?
I think it's been changing over time. Initially, all the time, people would be given time to grow up to 15 or even 18. There will be total women who can make up the mind and know what is happening. But as time has gone on, the age has reduced. Right now, we have up to 9-year-old going through the card. So, and depending, especially now that there's a lot of talk and people are doing FGM like in secrecy, because some people know that it's illegal to do it. So they can even do up to 8 years, 6 years. So just to ensure that no one will catch it before it's done. That I ensure that this is done. I have fulfilled my responsibility to make sure that
well, judging by your looks, of course, I can tell that you passed 15. I'm not saying you're old, of course, but you passed that. So did you go through the cart?
Yes, I did.
You did?
Yeah.
All right. So what makes you a survivor? Your story.
I don't know how to call myself.
Did you feel, can you tell the difference? I don't know if you can tell the difference, but anyway, how does it feel, you know?
I was pretty young.
Yes.
I was, I think, either 14 or 15. So for me, which is much better than what other girls are going through right now, because I was aware, but not really informed about it. So one, I think, before you do it, you're just, a child, no one listens to you, but definitely going through the cart, it's very painful. I have to admit that. And there's a lot of bleeding, depending on how you are. If you're healthy, or then depending on how your blood system is, you can it can stop pretty early or takes time. But definitely, it's a process that you have to stay indoors for a week. You ain't going anywhere. You're indoors. People are taking care of you, definitely. There's treatments, herbal treatments and all that, but also feeding a lot so that you can recover easily. But I think as a process is also, people talk to you, women talk to you. During that process, there's a blessing ceremony by your fathers. So sometimes at some minute, it's something nice that you listen to your fathers blessing you and praying that you have a good life and you get prosperous in life. But also the pain definitely is not something that you enjoy. But the other process of the blessings, the people talking to you and advising you what it means to be a woman, what is expected of you as a woman in society, and that now you can wake up and make decisions and participate. So that part is good, but definitely the physical pain is not something that you would want someone to go through.
So as it now, would you advocate for a child, maybe your child, to go through that?
No way.
No way.
No
well,
way.
I'm coming back to you to understand why you're a survivor and why no way. And the way you speak, you know, it kind of gets me convinced that this is a good thing to go through.
Oh my God, no way.
I don't know. Well, I'll come back to you, Madam Mary, Madam Mercy, sorry. What would you, the types of FGM that we have, maybe it's very, very important for the people down there to get to know. Because there are people who say that there's one type that is not that badly off, that is fairly good, maybe you will not bleed much and everything. And you know, all these myths. But at the end of the day, the law says that whichever angle, whichever route they take, it is bad.
There are different types of FGM, but maybe just the simplest way to describe the forms of FGM is that there's one where you only cut the clitoris, and there's one where you scoop the whole of, you know, the private part and you sew it. That is now what is called mutilation. And that is why there is female genital mutilation, where you scoop the whole of the private part and you sew it, and you only leave a very small outlet for urine, such that even when a woman has to give birth when they are older, then you have to cut so that, you know, the baby can get to come out. And then there is where you just cut the clitoris, and, you know, and that is it. One is very harmful. the other one is not so harmful. That is not to say that it is okay, because I think we are not just talking about the cat. It is the story behind the cat, you know, and then the fact that like she's saying, you don't have a choice. The society has decided for you, and we know very well that all the children have rights to participate. I think that is according to the UNCRC, and I think Kenya has agreed that those laws to protect the children are good. We have ratified, we have our own Children's Act, and we have said this is not okay. So as much as we as the society think that this is a good tradition, there's that bit. There's, you know, nobody will come up with a law just for the sake of it. There must be something behind it, a kind of promoting that inequality is what the law fights. You know, the anti-FGM law and even the Sexual Offences Act. Those are some of the things that they're trying to prevent, and maybe create a platform for a fair platform for all the children to grow up and compete well.
All right. From of course, Geji, from what you're saying, aside from the inequality, you know, aspect and all that, we also have a couple of consequences.
That's
and I believe
true.
those are some of the consequences that maybe you went through, or maybe you were lucky enough not to go through, but heard of them, you know, and that's the reason why you would stand and say that you would not want your sister, you would not want your mom, you do not want your child to go through such a, you know, you don't want them to go through the knife. So what are some of these consequences, the major ones that would convince this old man to change from their culture and, you know, take this other route, take this other direction, apart from, you know, the law, apart from saying that they would go behind bars? You need to make them understand, right? Because it's not an easy thing to just come and say, I'm enforcing this law that, of course, if anyone performs this, they'll go to jail and everything. But the reason is why. It's been working good for our girls. The ladies are embracing it. Actually, at some point in time, the Maasai ladies were asking the government, you know, to seclude their community from the law and all that. They say they still want to keep that. And you question all this. Is it that they don't have this information or what?
I think just mentioning what happened, because it happened in Kajiado and Transmara, and I think also men did that in Samburu. I think following up onto it, it wasn't really just the pro-FGM, there was something else. One of the things that those women that said we want FGM to continue because it's our culture is because there were some arrests, some people were arrested for girls getting cut and all that, and it was a reaction to it. So, but the main thing is people to understand, because one of the things they were saying, especially in Kajiado, was we've all done that, so if you're arresting, arrest the whole community.
All right.
And creating that discussion, it's kind of very sensitive, especially with Maasai, because you're very communal and you don't think as an individual. Culture is protected by everybody and they want to do it. So I think one of the things that happened is dialogue, understanding that even if they had a reason to do it, it doesn't work anymore. Because when she says FGM is a thing that ensures that women will stay faithful and wait for the men to come back home. They're not going anywhere anymore. So why would you do that? It doesn't serve its purpose. It's overgrown. So I think it's making people understand and getting what is the discussion that goes on in the mind, what is the perception that they do it, and just create that dialogue and platform that people will understand that it doesn't have a purpose anymore, and understand the health consequences of doing it, the difficulty in delivery. Although they'll tell you, we've given birth to you and you are here. So, but you know, you don't know better that these some people are sensitive to cuts and they are hygienic things that happen. But the thing is, understand why it shouldn't happen right now. But I think also the fact that even right now the age of the child has gone down, and which means they're not developed enough for them to make a decision that this is what I want, or to be even an adult that can make a decision. So one of the things sometimes is we try to do is negotiate for a compromise. Wait for them to be 18, which we know by the time you're 18, you wouldn't want it. You can make that decision. So I think it's trying to find a way for them to understand. But also the old people are saying, okay, fine. It's your time as young people. Decide whatever you want, which is a good thing. But the scare, if you go to very, very rural places, is women will tell you, I don't want, I will cut my girl because I want them to get married. And then, so who is getting married to a girl who has gone through FGM?
I remember there's a time, actually, I remember there's a time I was speaking to Lina Chebi. Unfortunately, she's not here. She would have shared the story. And I was asking her about the most embarrassing moment in life. She went like, you know, my most embarrassing moment was this time when they were negotiating my bride price, because the question on board was like, she's not even circumcised, you know. So, you know, like there's this
she's still
bargain
a
that
child,
she's still a child and all that. So it's embarrassing for her. It's awkward for her. She risks not being married actually, and all these things. So I don't know. But anyway, getting back to you, we have
maybe
this.
before you still continue, the effects of FGM. When girls go through the cut in their teenage, in some communities, not all the communities, but you can correct me if I'm wrong, but among the Maasai, like she says, it's a rite of passage.
Yes.
It is a mark from childhood, and now you are a woman. And, you know, she put it very well. You can participate in all the activities of adults. So that means including having sex and getting married. At the age of 14, at the age of 15, those are kids. And I think that is one of the worst effects. You rob them of their childhood. And I think as planned, that is something that we are really, you know, particular about. That every child should get an opportunity to go through their childhood and enjoy it. You know, you get the right to be a child. I don't think I want to be a woman at 14. I want to be a child at 14, at 15, at 16, at 17. When I'm 18, you can start another story. I will listen, you know, and I can also feel that I'm not a child anymore. The other effect is that if they go through FGM and now they are told that they are women and they're supposed to have sex, they are going to get betrothed to someone who is 70 years old, and maybe somebody who even started, you know, courting the father when they were very young.
Yeah, the schooling ends there.
The schooling ends there, and that is why in communities where that is really embraced, FGM is really embraced, you find that even the education level of the children, of the girl child, is very low. You will find very many educated men, but when you compare to the women, you realize that not many of them can compete favorably to get a job from that community, just because they never got the opportunity to go to school. And then there is also the risk, like she's saying, the risk of you know, complications during childbirth, because the baby cannot pass properly. You get fistula, and you know how many women. Remember, there was a drive against fistula the other day.
But of course, I was in a session in Kajiado, and actually most of the ladies who were there did not get fistula during birth. Some of them, actually 3/4 of them, were getting this out of FGM and all that, and it felt so bad. It really felt like, I don't know. So I think those are some of the worst effects that we know. Not to mention that there could be other issues, like, you know, when you go to school, if you happen to go to school outside your community, like a boarding school, those who are lucky enough that they go through the cut and they still get an opportunity to go to school, there's that embarrassment. I mean, what happened to you? I know it is also the reverse for boys from the communities that don't circumcise. It is expected that they get and if you're not, you become a laughing stock. So the opposite now happens for girls. So it becomes a social issue for them. They can get withdrawn. They make very few friends, or they tend to make friends only from the communities that practice FGM because they have someone who can understand them. All right. Okay. Amid your efforts to fight this, I'm sure you've met people like you. I'm imagining Mary Chege. I can tell your community, you know. But it's not so much practice down there. So not imagine, you know, coming to a Maasai person and telling them this is not right and everything. You know, amid these wrangles, and it is a bit tough. I'm sure you've encountered conflicts. You know, right now I'm sure you're encountering conflicts. You know, with your people down there back at home. Probably you're trying to tell them that this is not the thing. You're trying to empower that girl child. What are some of these conflicts that you go through? Because, I mean, we've had this battle for the longest time. By now, we should be talking about something else. We should be talking about FGM as a game of the past. But that is not the case. Yeah, you can go first.
You can go first.
Okay, I think for me, even just to add on what she said about what girls go through, it's something that I went through. It does affect your self-esteem. And it has to come to a place that you say, all right, I didn't have a choice to go through this, and I have to also decide who I'm becoming in future. So it's something that girls, even the way we are doing FGM campaigns, something that we need to be sensitive on, because I went to a group and we're talking about girls, why you should not go through FGM, and a girl of 10 years comes and say, okay, fine, you're saying this, but I have gone through it already. So what happens to me? Does it mean I'm half a woman because I have gone through it? Does it mean I'm not going to have a child, or I'm not going to get married to a guy that I love?
Speaking of marriage, I'm sorry to ask this. Let me just go a bit personal. Are you? Are you?
Married? No.
Yes. No. Okay. Have you heard people from other communities hitting on you and the men and everything? And how do you get to explain to them that, well, this is it? I'm sorry to ask, but yeah.
Okay, that's really personal. But yes,
Yeah.
I've had men from other communities hitting on me, definitely.
Uh-huh.
But I think one of the things, this happened when I was in the university, definitely, because that's when people started fighting FGM. And so this guy comes just to you and says, so did you go through the cut? I'm like, where is this coming from?
I
you know,
mean,
like,
yeah.
why would you ask me something like that? It becomes something that if someone is hitting on you, will come and
brushes,
brushes.
you know, like.
But again, I was like, yeah, I have gone through it, but I'm still a woman. I think I read a story of a Somali woman who went to the US and she's fighting FGM and said, okay, at the end of the day, it's about your brain. Sexuality is about what you think about yourself and how confident you are as a woman. And yeah, so I kind of am comfortable with it.
Yes.
And say that, fine, I went through it, I didn't have a choice, but I'm still as a woman as anybody else. And that's something a pep talk that someone has to do to yourself if you've gone through that.
All right. Of course, I cut you short. You were talking about something, but anyway, maybe we'll go back to you.
I think I would like to react to what she has said. And I think this is Plan Kenya's position and you know, Plan globally.
Yeah.
Why would girls have to fight for their space? Why don't we just let them have their space? You know, like she had to go to college and convince people, you know, I didn't have a choice.
Trying to explain something that...
Exactly. And I think that is Plan's, you know, problem. Yeah. Why are we having girls having to explain themselves about something that they went through and it was not really their choice? I'm very sure that if she was 18 and she was told, okay, it's time for you to go for the cut, she would have said, I don't want to go through that. But now she did not have a choice. And, you know, that is the power play that I was talking about. You know, the culture itself is beautiful, and I don't think we need to trash our culture. I think that would be very wrong. And even, like, you know, like the way we, as Plan, we implement our programs, we do not go telling, like I don't know whether I had mentioned that our FGM project is in Tharaka. And Tharaka, the national statistics say that according to the demographic health survey, it is at 21%. At Kenya, we are 21% prevalence of FGM. But in Tharaka, according to a research that was done by GIZ, and that was way back in 2004, they were at 58%.
So of course, 21,
above the national, you know, the national, you know, level. And I think that was one of the reasons why we chose Tharaka.
To focus on Tharaka.
And actually talking to our officers there, they will tell you that as you go closer to the border with Eastern Province and Mwingi, the prevalence rate can even be as high as 98%. You know, there are just a handful of girls who escape the cut, maybe because parents have moved out of there, and, you know, so that, I think that's why the Plan project actually focused on Tharaka. And I think one of the things that is really good about the way Plan implements our project is that we go and become part of that society, and we tell them, we understand this is part of your culture. Let's begin from there. We are not saying that for the longest time ever, for the last hundreds of years, you've been doing the wrong thing. But right now, there are these effects on your girls. And they can also see how many girls have made it to the university from this community. And they will even struggle to tell you there is a girl from that ridge and another one from that ridge. Basically, they are struggling. And how many boys? Oh, there are many. We have the mayor, we have, you know, they don't even have, you can't even count them. They don't have to struggle. So, and that's why, you know, what do the women do? The women give birth, they go to the river, they sweep the houses, they go and they're the ones who go to the farm. So the most important person in your society who literally feeds you is the least empowered. So what is that doing to your community? So you have to engage them in a dialogue and changing a mindset, and you know, actually coming, you know, making a paradigm shift in a society. It's one of the hardest things. So we'll keep on fighting, but I think we have made significant progress, and I can say we are not where we were 20 years ago, but we are a long way from winning this war.
All right, indeed, we'll come back with more, of course, getting to know what are the strides that we've made? I mean, how far we are as a country, and we also need to know more about the conflicts that these people go through in the fight against FGM. We are not trying to say that we need equality. We are simply striving for girls to live a life full of dignity. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this short break.